the Quite the Thing Media Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Kim.
And this is Cal. You're listening to Shiny Things. So this week we are actually covering the disappearance of little Arden Papillon. This is an ongoing investigation, so all of the claims are alleged at this point. Nobody's been taken to trial or anything like that. So we just wanted to make it known that we're just trying to give you guys the facts that we have at hand and go from there. We hope to do a future episode while we get some updated information, because there will be some trials coming up. There's been some search parties coming up, so we're hoping that we have some good news to be able to report to you guys in the future. So today we're going to start by talking about little Arden and what she was like and what she was wearing and stuff the day she actually went missing. So her nickname's Artie. She's about 3 years old, about 3 feet tall, about 31 pounds. She was last seen wearing a purple jacket with a unicorn on the front and a gray sweater. She also had on black leggings and black boots with some green trim. The last time she was seen was on Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. And this is located in Browning, Montana, in the area of Joe Show East off of U.S. Highway 89, south of the Blackfeet reservation, which is an area also known as the Two Medicine area. So we're going to start from there, and we'll kind of give you a little more detail on what happened and when Arden was last seen and things like that. And throughout the show, we will try to put in some information that we did gain from the family's interviews and things like that. Again, last names won't be used because this is an ongoing investigation.
How about you tell me a little bit about Arden?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, she was pretty active. Ever since she was this small little baby, she has 3 older sisters. Alexis, she's 13 now. She's the oldest. Maxine, she is 9 now. And then there's Maddie, and she's 8, almost 7. She's going to be 8 this year. And then they all, they all stuck together. And that's everything that we're kind of, wondering about. Okay, so if Arden's out there, where's the other ones? So they usually travel in a group, usually travel in a pack,
So Arden's dad actually brings up a good point where, he talked about the girls traveling in a pack, which when you're close with your sisters, that's what you do. And, their ages weren't super far apart, you know what I mean? And they had a tight bond. So why is it that Arden wasn't with the rest of the girls and that she was by herself? Because my understanding is that she had gone with her aunt's boyfriend, Hayhawks, who had taken her out to go. He was going to practice shooting. They stated that she was with him before shooting and noticed Arden was missing while he was reloading his gun. Then they went on to say in the newspaper that after looking around, he saw footprints of hers leading to the river about 40 to 50 yards from where the water was. And according to a law enforcement spokesman, there was about a 5 to 6 hour gap between the time she was discovered missing and the time it was reported. I know you know a little more about that, Kim, where she was last seen and the time the phone call was placed.
So from what I understand, when Hayhawks realized that Arden was missing, he actually went and picked his girlfriend up from work. I don't know if if he looked for her before he did that. But once he picked her up, and I do understand that he went back to town twice, so I'm not really sure what that was all about. But again, this is all alleged. It's not written in stone, but this is the information that we're getting from a very reliable source. That he picked his girlfriend up, and they went back to search the area for Arden, and called the police at approximately 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
And she had gone missing. They discovered she was missing at approximately 7 p.m.
So my question was, why wait that long? If my child went missing or any other child that was in my care, I would have immediately called the police.
Right. So that's a big red flag in this case because, you know, she's unaccounted for. I know that we did get a source that stated the girlfriend, Kimberly, was dropped off at work about approximately 3 p.m. that day. So there's a 4-hour time span that Arden could have gone missing. And there's also some dispute over the number of rounds that were shot during this practice shooting, because I know that one reliable source said that they found 30 rounds once they went and investigated the spot, but I know that there were some witness testimonies that said that they had only heard X amount of shots during this time.
So it's kind of open-ended there as to, you know, there's one person's story, there's another person's story, and then there's the actual scenario of what actually did happen. So it's frustrating to say the least.
Because the one neighbor I witnessed said that she heard one shot, but then once they got to the area, we did hear from another source that they had found 30 spent rounds on the ground. There was no police identification of these rounds to prove that they had all come from the same gun or anything like that. So, again, this is alleged. So, there's some questions about whether or not there was any practice shooting, or if it was just the one shot.
And you also don't know if those rounds that were found were from the gun that he had or he allegedly had.
Correct, because the police, to the best of my knowledge, the police weren't involved with any of those spent shell casings. There wasn't anything in the news, and none of our resources had explained that the cops did any digging into that. But it's debated whether or not Arden went missing from where the shooting range was, or if it was actually the gravel bank that was nearby the river.
Because they did find, they had dive teams at the river, and from what I read, on April 25th, they actually found footprints. Now, I don't know, they could have found the footprints prior to then, but they had dive teams in the river, and they did find one of her boots. But then from what I heard from our source was that they also found clothing or articles of clothing several yards away, and it just, Kelly,
They were across the street, actually.
yes,
And in the area that the clothing articles were found were approximately 10 to 15 miles upstream from where the footprints were discovered. So now we're going to play a clip from one of our sources, just to take a listen and see, exactly what they heard and things that have unfolded in this investigation.
Nobody saw him shooting. And as far as I heard from Irene, is that there was only one neighbor there, and she heard nothing but one gunshot.
Yes, that evening?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we heard. It was just the same, we heard that same thing too. And it was just the one shot.
ones that were responsible for her safety. So why would they threaten you? And why wouldn't they help with the searches?
Well, see, because they were getting mad because we kept on going down to where they said that that she was lost at the river, right? So we kept on going down there, and then we started digging around more and more, and that's when we started getting more and more mad at us for doing it.
Well, you'd think that, I mean, if she was in my care, I would be out there night and day trying to find her.
Yeah, and the messed up thing about it is that I went to our local land department, and I got a land survey, a map,
Okay?
and that's not their land.
So they were upset because you were on their land, and it wasn't really theirs anyway.
Nope. So I went to the landowner, and she was like more than happy to. She was right there with us.
I saw a video on Facebook with that little altercation.
Yeah. So then I got the paperwork, and I started, and then so I started bringing it, and then I posted it on Facebook saying, anybody that wants to go up there, so we got permission. We got permission from all the other landowners except for them.
That is so bizarre. I mean, if they didn't do anything wrong and they don't feel guilty, I mean, I don't understand this. I did reach out to Hahak, but through Facebook, but he didn't answer me. And I reached out to Kimberly too, but she didn't answer me either. And I don't know if they're active on Facebook. I mean, I would be willing to call them, but I can't even find a phone number for either one of them.
We can confirm that this information is true. We have from a local news source that there were actually 2 people that were arrested because they were being aggressive towards the searchers. Their names were not released, but we can confirm at least that there were some people arrested. There is a video on Facebook and things like that. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, the whole point is to bring Arden home. So, you know, it's always questionable when people get defensive about their land and things like that. But, you know, it just kind of goes on to show you. So actually a little piece of information. So, yes, little Arden's missing, but Indigenous people make up about 6.7% of all of Montana's population. So the Blackfeet reservation and any other reservations. With that being said, Indigenous people make up 32% of all missing people in Montana. This is a total of 51 missing people. There are 25 are men, 32 are women, and 21 of them have been missing for at least a year.
And from what I understand, if somebody from their reservation is missing, it's not actively shared with like the outside community. It's mostly handled within that reservation and jurisdiction between the tribal police. And very rarely, I understand, is that there's any help from the outside.
Right. And then there was also some information that we had found that there was a close relative to one of the suspects, a first cousin, that had actually been the sergeant on the case during this time. Once that was brought up, it was actually turned over to another person, Misty, who is now in charge of the case. So I thought that was interesting, but I'm glad also that they didn't have nepotism or anything
that was my worry, that why would this person that's very closely related to a suspect be in charge of the case? So it makes me feel good